It is Wednesday, January the 19th. I am Jon Pollock alongside Wai Ting, and welcome to your post-daily news update. And Wai, I just did a Google search of your name to make sure there are no problematic ties to Wai Ting. It took me 30 seconds during the countdown to this video. You're clear. You're good. So we are trademarking Wai Ting in perpetuity.
Well, thank goodness. I'm glad you took that 30 seconds to figure out before we proceed with this podcast.
It's very easy, very quick. Yes. We are going to be chatting about Gunther and his arrival to NXT 2.0, a very heated choice by WWE to introduce, well, I will say half the name. And then we will be looking ahead to tonight's Dynamite, which all of a sudden feels like a very big episode with the return of Jon Moxley that instantly becomes the biggest aspect of tonight's show on TBS. And of course, we were delayed, but we got ratings to talk about from SmackDown and AEW Rampage. But let us start with NXT 2.0, and that featured Walter, the former Walter, in the main event taking on Roderick Strong. Earlier in the day, it had been reported that there was a trademark filing by WWE for the name Gunther Stark. And when people saw this, there was the instant note that this was the name of a Nazi U-boat submarine commander. And this was not a good name to be going forth with. And the question was, what are they going to be using this name for? And if you watched NXT 2.0 in the final seconds of the show, you got the news as Walter defeated Roderick Strong and announced that the winner of the match was Gunther. So it would appear, based off of that way, that they are not going forward with the last name, but instead somewhat not dropping the name entirely, and they clearly have an attachment to Gunther. And a lot of people are upset about this. And again, as we mentioned off the top, this would have taken seconds to simply search this name and see this is an existing person. It is really hard to imagine that this was just a random name that was pulled out of nowhere, both a first and last name that has this connection.
Oh man. Oh man.
Is it like every day? like every day. It's, what was this character that Mustafa Ali was proposed? Like, is there any benefit of the doubt that you give that maybe this character was not deeply offensive? And then, like, Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia. And now we're going to talk about a name that has ties to Nazi Germany. And it just seems like it's just, like, process of, like, exhaustion of, well, get your upset words out, get your rage out, and then we'll do something that will just take your eye off the ball as we move forward. And it's just... it's a certain level of just, we can do this. And I'm going to write about this in today's update. WWE has several pressure points that they will give into. Sponsorships. If there is a sponsor that is upset about something, like we saw with the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal at WrestleMania in 2018, they're going to respond to that. If there is a network partner that looks at this and does not want this kind of ties, yeah, they're going to respond to it. But fan outcry, wrestling specific media, those are not pressure points. They typically they go through that and largely go unscathed when it is limited to that. But I don't think that means that you just say, oh well, it's WWE, they can do whatever. I just think it would have been an easy call to say, you know what, our bad, new name. We're not keeping Gunther. We're not going to keep half of this name. We're going to just create a brand new name. And even in the most trivial WWE bubble of being enclosed in, it would be very odd to go with Stark when you do have a Stark on your NXT roster already, which is not a big deal to normal everyday life. But in WWE, that is a big thing that they try to avoid very much, of having duplicate names. But I've talked long enough, Wai.
We know name changes are a part of the norm with WWE, at least current incarnation of the WWE. I think anytime, there are two things here. The first thing is that, Walter is a beloved professional wrestler. And I think, a lot of fans that are non-WWE fans feel a bit of ownership, anytime they see somebody who's very revered from the independent wrestling scene jumping into the WWE. And people don't like their toys, being changed, and things that they're absolutely perfect and happy with being changed. So even if this was simply a rebrand from Walter to Gunther, or really any name, Tom, people would have been rightfully upset. I understand.
But that one, like, you're always going to have that when you change something, but that to me is like a smaller one. It's a pattern for them, and over time you get used to new names. It's an adjustment period. I would say though, and like Will Cooling brought this up, and it's a great point, that if you are going with that mindset, they should be the new name from day one. You have 3 years of equity of this Walter in your WWE operations and on takeovers, and you have even used him on a Survivor Series as this name. So it almost just seems that let's just utilize this name from the very start. So
sure,
anyway.
Perhaps. I mean, there's clearly a change of direction, at some point. Now they're in the business of wanting to own these names. Walter is committing to, working in the US. But it was more so, I think, in this case, the leak of, or at least the specific copyright being leaked, and this name, unfortunately, being tied to this U-boat commander, that I think really set the internet ablaze. And again, rightfully so. Clearly, to me, they would have mentioned Gunther Stark if they did choose to, go for the whole thing. I think they're going to stick with Gunther, realizing, hey, like, okay, well, let's drop the last name and people won't be upset. But the damage is already done. Everybody is already associating this name with this Nazi commander. And I thought it was probably a bad change, regardless. At this point, why not just, name him Tom?
Well, Google's a tremendous tool. But we are going to shift focus. We will go back to NXT 2.0 as well as some other news stories. But coming up this Sunday night, I would say this is the show that has the lion's share of the attention this weekend in the pro wrestling universe. And that is Game Changer Wrestling's The World on GCW, taking place from the sold-out Hammerstein Ballroom. It's going to be streaming live on Fight TV as well as traditional cable operators. And joining us now to chat about the show, he is GCW promoter Brett Lauderdale, who is joining us on the program. Brett, it is great to have you on the show, and you will not be undergoing any name change here on Post Wrestling Today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to retain my name. Thank you.
That's wonderful. In perpetuity. Get that locked up.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just start with you because anyone that goes to your Twitter will see that you have pinned right at the top Spring Break 2020, and it was going to be a landmark show for you guys. How much of a setback was that? Something completely out of your control. And here you are, days away from what I think many people are looking at as the biggest show in your promotion's history. I mean, it is quite the story when you look at what the pandemic did to you guys with Spring Break and where you are today and coming off, a pretty terrific year.
Well, of course, at the time, March 2020, we were lined up. That Spring Break was, we were going to have 4,000 people, maybe more. So, it was lined up to be the biggest event we had ever done. And again, one of the biggest events in indie wrestling history. So to lose that so close, just a matter of weeks away, it was devastating and heartbreaking for all of us, for the company, for all the performers and all the people that worked to put it together. There's not, it doesn't get much more frustrating or heartbreaking than that. But to come back now, however many months and years it is later, to be able to kind of get back to that point where once again we're kind of on the doorstep of what could be considered the biggest indie wrestling show of all time. It's kind of amazing to look at and to see the journey we've taken. And I'm happy and excited for everybody that's been there with us the whole way, and thankful for everybody that's worked so hard to get us back here.
How far back has Hammerstein been sort of a dream of yours to run? And when did you feel it was the time that we're ready to take this step and that the demand will be there, which it clearly has been?
Well, I think ever since, from the days of, being the most hardcore fan, which maybe I still am today, seeing ECW in that building and even the WWE one night stands in that building, you look at that, the venue, and it's just a special place. Being able to be there and watch wrestling there, that it is special, and and not just anybody can do it. To get in there, you have to be doing something special, and just to I think about it every day, just thinking like, wow, this is really coming up and we're about to do this. The idea of doing it there, in reality happened real quick. It was, I don't know. I just want to say there was, maybe a couple days in October where I was thinking about, what are we going to do next? We were coming up on Moxley versus Gage, which was a mega event. And, I'm always trying to take us to the next level, as is everybody on our team. We're always looking to level up. So, I made a call, and just out of curiosity's sake, I arranged a walkthrough just to see, what would it take? Could we set this as a goal for something down the road? And, once I walked in that building and met the people there and did the walkthrough, I just, it didn't take long, after being in there, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, I realized that I wasn't going to leave that day without setting something up. And the rest is history.
We just played a bit of a clip of that first promo video that you guys aired to make the announcement. And something that to me always stands out about GCW is the fact that I think your promotion, despite your size compared to, the $1 million corporations that are out there, I believe you guys have the best creative branding of any wrestling promotion that is available right now. Can you describe your team's process in creating a video package like the one you used to announce the Hammerstein announcement, or any sort of promotional video, or even down to the graphics?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that in terms of like branding and marketing and messaging, it's easy for us because we're authentic, and everybody is. All these stories and characters, these are real. These are organic and real. Effie is Effie. We're not we're not sticking a character on him and telling him to figure out how to play it. I mean, this is just him. Same with everybody else across the board, the AJ Grays and the Alley Catches and the Nick Gages and the Jordan Olivers and so on and so forth. The Chris Dickinsons, the Alex Colognes, the Jimmy Lloyds, these are all people playing themselves, the Joey Janellas, so it's easy for people to, be creative and artistic as themselves. They don't have to search and figure out, how do I do this character, or how do I deliver this promo? This is who they are. So, that's, then that's half the battle. The idea for this promo, again, this was an authentic message, and it goes back to when I walked into that building the first time. In a lot of ways, we don't belong here. Look at us. None of these people are under contract. GCW is not on television. What are we doing? What are we doing here? And the history of GCW has always been doing things that people said we couldn't do. So that promo and the message that came with it was as authentic and real as it gets. There was no needing to sit there and come up with some, groundbreaking idea. We just told the truth. And that's how you got what you got from that video.
We're also going to see Jon Moxley on the show defending the GCW championship against Homicide. Was this sort of just a wait and see of what Jon's status would be if he could do the show, and how much was the turnaround time of him giving you the go ahead before the announcement came out? Has it just been sort of, you're obviously like he's on his own timetable?
Absolutely. He is on his own timetable. And yeah, if of course it was a wait and see. The circumstances that led to the uncertainty, I mean, is one of those things where, the ball is not in our court, it's in his court. When he's ready and he tells us that he's ready to go, then we're ready, but we don't make that decision, and he does. So, I mean, we planned on having him. He had told us from the start, that he wanted to be there, and this was an important event for him. And, he also, and just for the record, he takes being GCW champion seriously. He's, he takes pride in that, and he likes being a part of GCW. So, while I had to wait to officially count him in, I never counted him out. So, yeah, it was just a matter of waiting to hear from him. And then, I heard from him, and he said, I'll be there. So, and it was all very recently. So, I'm glad he's going to be there.
The fact that you're able to sell this building out, before announcing that Moxley was going to be on, before really announcing any sort of like major notable matchups, what did that mean to you?
Well, it meant to me that people trust us to give them their money's worth and put on a good show, and yeah, I mean, and we feel like we've earned that trust. We've built up a credibility with the fan base over 5 or 6 years now, where We don't necessarily have to tell you everything that's going to happen on a show before you get there. People are pretty confident that when they come to GCW, they're going to get their money's worth. They're going to get an exciting show. They're going to get a show that's unpredictable. Something crazy is going to happen. Something fun's going to happen. And that, whether the lineup's announced before or after, they're going to be glad they came. So I think that same rule applies here to Hammerstein. We didn't have to say a thing, knowing that we're going to be in such a special place and such an important show. Was there really any doubt that we were going to come with our best?
Mm-hmm.
You've run shows in the past in New York, but running in a state that does have a commission, what are some of the hurdles that come with that, Brett?
Well, it is challenging, of course, and I've actually been suspended by the New York State Athletic Commission after our first show in New York back in 2019 or whatever it was, when things got a little crazy between Nick Gage and Low Life Louie. So I've lived the challenges through and through. I got a nice fine and a suspension. So it is challenging, and it is challenging, but it's not impossible. You just have to be smart, and you have to pick your spots. And they're not there. I mean, at the end of the day, these people, they're there as part of a bigger operation. The New York State Athletic Commission. They're not there to ruin our day, but they're there to theoretically keep everybody safe, including the fans and the wrestlers. So you just have to kind of work with them and communicate as best you can. And I don't know, just do your best, but we are the last outlaws. So
as part of doing these daily news updates, I mean, it feels like every day we're reading some sort of wild name being announced that'll be attached to some GCW show. It seems like there are no limitations as far as who can cross those borders into this company, but because there are so many people available right now, not just a legendary talent, of course, but the free agents that are in the market. How do you decide who fits and who doesn't?
Well, yeah. So we do have the luxury, because we're not, on some television channel or some network, and we don't have contracts. We do have the luxury and the ability to have people come and go as we please and as they please. So that gives us, greater flexibility than some others. In terms of picking, who fits and who doesn't, there's definitely a mold of who fits in GCW and who maybe is not a great fit. I look for people that are passionate about wrestling. No matter what their position is, whether they're fresh off of, Monday Night Raw or fresh from, a 20-year career in Japan, or whether they're 2 months into the business, you just look for people who care as much as you do, and care as much as the GCW fans. That's what we're looking for: passion and people who are going to go 100% and who care about the company and who will care about the company. We're not here to be we're not a stepping stone, so to speak, and we're not just a paycheck. We don't want to be that. So if you're big name, small name, somewhere in the middle, we're here to work together and build this company together.
I also want to ask a bit about Saturday night with yourself and Orange Crush presenting the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame. I think this has been a really well-received idea. And you're also opting to stream this free. I just want to get a bit into the decision process behind that. I mean, it's great for fans, but I think there's a lot of fans that probably would have thrown down $10 or $15 to watch this on Saturday night. Yeah,
so streaming it free, there's definitely some reasons behind this. I don't want people to feel like this Hall of Fame is owned by GCW or that it's just there as a, moneymaker, for financial reasons. I want this to be a real sustainable yearly thing that people look to and people look forward to. And, I look at GCW and Orange Crush as more like the curators of this Indie Hall of Fame. We're not the owners, So, making money or charging people to see it is not something I'm interested in. I want everybody to participate, and yeah, putting this live and free on YouTube I can't think of an easier or better way to do that. And to prove it, please come and watch and share this and let's enjoy this together. Let's celebrate these people's careers and, and let's keep this going. Let's build this and grow this idea. And hopefully we can do it every year for free as well.
Well, what was the selection process like in deciding who would go into this first class?
It was a very detailed, complex, and intricate balloting formula. Just
Secret
kidding.
ballots. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean we had a lot of names. I mean, there's no wrong answer, right? And there won't be a wrong answer for the first 10 years we do this. There's so many big and qualified people that would belong in an indie wrestling Hall of Fame. A lot of it came down this year to availability and who wants to participate and who maybe doesn't want to do it this year, maybe next year. It's just availability and convenience and can we get if we get this person, would we be able to get the right person to induct them? So this first class was not only people that were deserving, but people who were available and ready to go. So again, there's no wrong answer, and there's about probably hundreds more people that are qualified, and if we continue doing this, everybody will get to go in here.
Before we wrap up here, I know that people have been asking, and I'm curious if you can share any kind of status update on Nick Gage, and is there any possibility of him being on Sunday's card in some form or fashion?
Well, last I heard from Nick, he was in, and I heard from him a couple of days ago, he was down. He was in another part of the USA, and he's seeking out a career in the ministry. So I don't know what he wants to do as far as wrestling goes. I think maybe he found a new calling. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where he's asked for a little space, and maybe he found something, the next step of his life and his career. So I don't want to impede on that, and certainly we encourage him and support him in all of his future endeavors.
He's not like right next to you, is he? Is he like right next to you there? Okay.
He's not.
My real final question now, as you look at Sunday, it's obviously a huge step forward for Game Changer Wrestling. In the years that it has taken to get to this spot, who are some of the people you isolate that helped get Game Changer to this point, whether they are public names or maybe people that are not as well known in the public space?
Well, that's a good question. Certainly, GCW would not be where it is today without Joey Janela, for sure. Nick Gage, for sure. I could even say Matt Riddle to a degree, him coming on and doing the first Bloodsport with us. People like Giancarlo, major contributors. And of course, any one of a number of wrestlers who has been with us from early on, and all the people, all the fans, even, I still talk to and see a lot of the fans from the original GCW days in Game Changer World at Howell, New Jersey. There are people that have been following us and supporting us, almost religiously since 2016. And I still see them. And, it's easy, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them and say we wouldn't be where we are without them as well. So, that's kind of, but that is really the core, the Janellas, and I guess even the Zandigs to a degree. John Zandig being willing to team up with us in the first Tournament of Survival. Those are the people that believed in us early on. And we all just kind of, made this thing happen.
It's quite the story, and it continues on Sunday night with The World on GCW, streaming on Fight TV and on traditional pay-per-view, 8 p.m. Eastern, and as we mentioned, the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame streaming the night prior on both Fight and free on the Game Changer Wrestling YouTube channel. Brett, all the best in the days leading up to Sunday, and thank you so much for taking some time out of a very busy week to come chat with us. All the best on Sunday night and the weekend ahead.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. That was Brett Lauderdale. Great to have him on to chat about Sunday's show, and I think that is going to be the event that everyone is talking about this weekend. It's a very loaded card that they have since added to with a pre-show, with a scramble matchway. They have added Alex Zane, Dante Leon, Nick Wayne, Jack Cartwheel, Ninja Mac, and Grim Reefer, which should be a pretty fun scramble, as is tradition on these GCW events. So there you go. Some interesting answers there from one Brett Lauderdale.
Very much so, yeah.
And we pulled it off, We pulled it off with video, no less.
It was definitely we weren't sure if we were going to do that interview, and so I'm glad it actually happened.
Sometimes it's
by the time it
hey, he's ready.
Did.
All set. So that was great. But let's kind of a transition point from there is Jon Moxley. And after we spoke on Tuesday, AEW making the announcement that he would be back on tonight's show. So you've got a pretty loaded Dynamite tonight, Way, where you are not getting just Jon Moxley back, but also Cody Rhodes. There's a lot of buzz behind that. Sting and Darby Allin against the Acclaimed. CM Punk versus Shawn Spears. Malachi Black and Brody King taking on the Varsity Blondes in Brody King's AEW debut. Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker against Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander. And Serena Deeb squaring off with Sky Blue, as well as Brock Anderson and Lee Johnson against FTR. So this is a packed Dynamite when you look at all the matches and segments that they have scheduled for tonight.
It is packed in terms of, I think, interest, I will say, namely, of course, the Jon Moxley return, but I think also the Cody Rhodes appearance and all the, kerfuffle about what's been going on with him lately, at least in terms of story. I'm very curious to see what he mentions. CM Punk wrestling, I think, is a pretty big deal. But
Sting
yeah.
is still like, a rarity for matches on free television.
Absolutely. But I think it feels stacked in that sense, but it also feels stacked because they actually announce every single thing that they're planning to have happen on a show, rather than, Sting reacts.
How will Sting react? It's not even, they go further. Yeah. It's not just that they will react. The question is, how will they react? So a bit more substance there. So anyway, it's, are you expecting like a strong number tonight? Like I think that this is I think like the Moxley news is big. I think honestly like the mixed tag match like has like that's a rarity too on AEW. You throw in Punk and Sting wrestling. This seems like a really more as like a well-rounded show in terms of like there will be news coming out of the show, and there's also stars wrestling. So you have a little bit of a mix throughout these 2 hours. It should be a very busy 2 hours, I will say.
Yeah, I think I've been proven to be a pretty poor predictor of these ratings things. And to me, like there's correlation between, how much interest I might have in a card with how many people are actually watching. Today, sure, I'll say, yeah, it'll be a increase.
You can go out on a limb and say this might be among the 3 greatest numbers that AEW's ever done on TBS.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll go on that limb. I'll definitely, agree.
Way Sarray. She has gone home. She found a necklace that her grandmother had left her. And this has been another character that has been great. I will say this about NXT on Tuesday night. As a whole, I liked some of the video packages that they had for the characters, like Dante Leone, reintroducing him, who I don't think anyone could have picked out of a lineup when this guy was on for a cup of coffee in September, and at least giving him, he's fighting for his father who died recently. But this Sarray character, I think has...
Dante Chen.
Sorry, Dante Leone. We were just talking about Dante Chen, yes, from Singapore. But the Sarray character has... drawn some negativity as well.
Yeah. Yes, it has. This was quite the addition of NXT for us to talk about. And shout out to our friends at Up Next for doing a great job covering it on their show, of course. So if you want a detailed report, listen to those guys. But yeah, Sarray was the other, I think, hot topic coming out of the show. And, what you're seeing right now on screen is what seems to be a rebranding of Sarray. What I took the video to be was sort of like, Sarray now, the one that we've been used to, is going to be her alter ego. That is the Warrior of the Sun. And her civilian character is who we saw speak last night. And her civilian character happens to, look like, I think, a very traditional, typical view of what a Japanese schoolgirl from a anime might look like. So we see her decked out full on in like this cardigan with pigtails and just a little bow, just like Sailor Moon did. And I think it's important to realize right now we're talking about a WWE and an NXT that is focused on character. And when we talk about character, we're not necessarily talking about, what sort of characters that you might see walk around in daily life. We're talking about their version of comic book characters, whether it be, mob boss, stereotypical Italian mob boss, or a poker player. We're talking about cartoons.
I think they flushed the poker gimmick with Duke Hudson. It looks like his gimmick is bald and angry.
Right. But they're after characters that I think can translate to, action figures or the pages of a comic book. And typically that means things that are, or like, Nazi U-boat commander, I suppose.
Christ.
Like, geez, like,
I'm sure Mattel is excited about that release. Yeah.
But, I think for that reason, they decided to land on this particular look for Sarray's civilian form. That is no excuse, though. I think and there's always going to be perhaps the suggestion that well maybe the performer came up with it. We know famously like the Kabuki Warriors, the term Kabuki was a decision by the two wrestlers involved. There's the possibility that Sarray came up and suggested, hey, why don't you make me into like a Sailor Moon type of schoolgirl and I can transform into this thing later on. It's possible. I don't think it's an excuse for a company that does operations in the Western world with the attention that it has on it, that they wouldn't think better to think that this wouldn't play well. After last week where I commended them for like giving Wendy Chu a character that wasn't a stereotypical ninja or something, like how refreshing it was to see an Asian performer on my TV screen who's at least having a different type of character, somebody who's tired. They presented something like this, and whether or not it was of the creator's intent, the performer's intent, I should say, I don't think it's an excuse for the type of look that it gives the company in 2022. So, not a fan, and we'll see how far along this one goes.
What about the final thing on NXT 2.0? Did you take any conclusion regarding Pete Dunne with the segment that they did? Like, that segment could have gone one of two ways, the way it did, or Pete Dunne popping up and attacking Tony D'Angelo and the story continues. But the way that segment ended was sort of felt like a write-off of Pete Dunne and kind of Tony D'Angelo going in all these different directions where he's kind of the heel in this Dunne character, and then he's a babyface against Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, and then defaults to more so the heel with Cameron Grimes. So it seems like they're trying to stretch this character to whatever scenario they want to fit him into.
Yeah, Pete Dunne's absence, I think, and coupled with the fact that he recently did a main event match, will definitely lead you to think. Coupled with the fact that it's almost the Rumble, will lead you to think that perhaps he might be one of the call-ups. Certainly, by the way the show looked, it didn't seem like there was any follow-up for Pete Dunne in particular. I would lean towards that guess, John. The other question is, what do you think the
going to be?
that will be one of the questions. What his gimmick will be if he'll change his gimmick. Okay.
He's just gonna walk into the background of random scenes and just look into the camera and say, "Not the way."
Oh yeah, okay. Or they'll change his name to Well. Be a second incarnation of Well Done.
Stop. I'm becoming a bad influence on you.
My other question is, what about Roderick Strong? Great match he had with Gunther, John. So get used to that.
It's like the only match you could really spotlight on Tuesday's show. Yeah, he's another one. Roderick Strong is as close to 100% going to the main roster will be a failure as you could possibly envision for so many reasons. And to me, you cannot get rid of all of these hands, for lack of a better term, on NXT when you're trying to build all of these new characters. I'm not saying you have to push a Roderick Strong, but I think it's if you are going to be in WWE, that is the best place for him, because I am not giving an ounce of benefit of the doubt of him going to Raw or SmackDown and being anything more than probably a character that's like main event. Like, that's largely not the main event, but the program main event.
Yeah, there was some discussion online recently about people catching the fact that Roderick Strong temporarily opened up and then proceeded to close a Pro Wrestling T store. I don't know if there's not much that you could read to it. He ended up opening up Pro Wrestling T stores for his family, so which includes his wife and his son Troy. Maybe it was something to do with that. Who knows? But it definitely kind of that, and seeing him lose in the main event to Walter. Granted, I think anybody would lose to Walter, but he's still the leader of Diamond Mine. So I imagine he'll still stick around in NXT quite a bit longer. But the question is always going to be there for these legacy black and gold characters about what their future statuses will be.
All right, And final note here is some ratings notes from Friday, which were delayed because of the holiday on Monday. But SmackDown did 2,174,000 viewers, only down 4% from the week prior. 18 to 49 doing a 0.56, down 3%. So, I mean, it was down a very, negligible amount from the week prior. And this was largely built around the face-to-face with Rollins and Reigns and Lita appearing on the show, apparently for the first time in almost 20 years, which I guess is a valid stat.
20 years, yeah. That is impressive.
And Rampage finished 15th among cable originals. They were down 10.5% in total viewers with 526,000 viewers that they averaged. Down 17% in the demo with a 0.20. Both SmackDown and Rampage going against separate NBA games. Where Rampage got hit was their female viewership. In 18 to 49, they were down 22%. They were also down a large amount in women 35 to 49, although held up with 18 to 34s. 18 to 34 was only down 5%, so they did not see the dramatic decreases that some of their other demos did. And I guess we look towards this Friday, and we always look at what a live Rampage is going to do. I don't think live or taped means anything for these numbers, maybe a tiny amount. I think it's more so what they set up on Wednesday for Friday. They are doing a live episode, but we have nothing announced yet, so I'm sure they will set something of note up on tonight, because you also want to sell tickets for the exact same market to come back 2 nights later.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll have the entire card.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have saved any of this for Friday's show? Like, you have so much packed into tonight's show. I guess we'll see tonight. If there's stuff that happens and it's just your head is spinning by the end of the 2 hours, you could maybe make that argument. But let's see in practice what happens.
I mean, I imagine they probably have a lot already in store for Friday that they couldn't fit onto this one. I'm sure I mentioned the Moxley thing probably came about a bit last second. Otherwise, they probably would have announced it last week, so they probably didn't foresee that. But otherwise, I mean, every show, like Excalibur is going to have quite the workout, I bet you. At like about 10:30 today.
Oh, those
sorry, at 9:30. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're live tonight, 10:15 Eastern, live for Double Ice Cap and Espresso members.
Before we get out of here, a few super chats to go to, and we start off with Keyshawn Amirali, who sends a $15 super chat. Thank you so much, Keyshawn, for your continued support of Post Wrestling. Keyshawn says, finish season 3 of Succession, which was amazing. Are you more intrigued with Kendall's character arc or Tom's for season 4?
Tom's more
Tom 100%. And let me just say, like, we're past the point now where I think we could freely talk about it.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? I'll get a complaint.
But okay, well, the cliffhanger directly certainly elevates Tom into the most interesting character in the entire series. I mean, Kendall's is, I wouldn't say done, but
Kendall's more interesting now after he's come out of this, and obviously it'll be a war with him and his father for the next season. But he's teamed up with it's more of a war with the kids now, teamed together. And the story it's the alliance of the kids. Yes.
How is he going to get along with the kids? How is he going to get along with like Shiv, who like wrote all the shit about him in the paper, and Kieran Culkin's character. By the way, all those people are nominated for what is it? We're talking about Golden Globes or something. One of the awards. Anyway, the award season is coming up in succession.
The Golden Globes are very polarizing now.
Maybe
the Golden Globes just ended. They did it. It was like a closed setting that they did this year. It was just like they just sent out the updates for it. Anyway, actually,
maybe the Emmys. I don't fucking know.
I'm reading the HBO book right now that James Andrew Miller put out, and there's like a whole section, obviously, on Succession. And Jeremy Strong initially auditioned for the part of Roman, and was even told, "You've got it." And then they ended up pulling it from him, and he had to audition, and he got Kendall, obviously.
I mean, I seriously can't imagine him as Roman, nor could I imagine anybody but Jeremy Strong as Kendall. So I can't imagine like better, more perfect casting than that. So in an alternate variant universe, I imagine you can imagine what that'll be like. We have one more super chat, and that comes from Brandon, who sends a $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Brandon. Brandon D. He says WWE should rename Lash Legend to Alley Oop.
Alley Hoop.
Oh, Alley Hoop. Alley Hoop. Okay, even better.
Yeah. Why not? The alliteration takes over that one. When it's cleverness or alliteration.
I don't know if they're so much into like punny names. That's more like Glow. They're just into straight up like.
Yeah, they don't want a name to overshadow the performer.
No, they don't. So thank you guys for your super chats. We're live every day at 1 p.m. Taking your live super chats and all this other stuff. And thank you to everybody in the chat room tuning in today.
We appreciate it. We're live again tonight. Rewind to Dynamite, 10:15 Eastern. So check that out if you are a double, ice cap, or espresso member. A thank you to Brett Lauderdale for joining us. We'll be chatting about that show over the coming days. And yes, tune in every day, 1 Eastern, here on the Post Wrestling YouTube channel. And that is it for your daily news update.